The film industry can be risky. Millions of dollars are invested in a movie with the hope that it can make even more millions. As can be expected, movies sometimes lose money. If a studio has too many of these, they will fail. Here begins the story of Morgan Creek Productions. Morgan Creek Productions was formed in 1987 by film producer Joe Roth and automotive importer James G. Robinson. The fledgling studio would then create a distribution agreement with 20th Century Fox. The studio's first film, Young Guns, would be released the following year on August 12th. The Western film starred Emilio Estevez, Kiefer Sutherland, Lou Diamond Phillips, Charlie Sheen, Dermot Mulroney, and Casey Siemaszko, and was about Billy the Kid during the Lincoln County War in 1877. The film would go on to be the highest-grossing film on its opening weekend and would ultimately make $45 million against a budget of $11 million. However, their other 1988 film, the cloning horror movie Dead Ringers, only made $8 million on a budget of $13 million. 1989 would prove to be a mixed year for Morgan Creek. Their first film of the year was Skin Deep, a comedy starring John Ritter and directed by Blake Edwards. It was made for $9 million and would make just over $19 million. Just over a month later, another comedy, this time about baseball, came out. The movie was Major League. It would star Tom Berenger, Charlie Sheen, and Corbin Burnson. It followed a fictionalized version of the Cleveland Indians as they try to improve their performance so they won't move to Miami. It would have good performance with audiences, making $49.8 million at the cost of $11 million. The movie would also be Morgan Creek's first movie not released by Fox, as it was released by Paramount Pictures. After two comedies, an action film was released in the form of Renegades, starring Kiefer Sutherland and Lou Diamond Phillips, two of the stars from Young Guns. However, the film would only gross $9 million after getting negative reviews. Morgan Creek's final release of 1989 would be the Holocaust drama Enemies, a love story. The film received immense critical reception and would receive 3 Academy Award nominations, including one for Best Supporting Actress for Angelica Houston. However, it would only gross $7 million at the box office. At the start of the new decade, things did not start out well for the studio. Their first film of 1990, Nightbreed, was edited against the wishes of director Clive Barker, who had also claimed that the movie was mismarketed. Critical reception was poor, and it would only gross $8.9 million with an $11 million budget. Their next film, Coupe de Ville, would perform even worse. Despite being directed by Roth, it would only get shown in 170 theaters, only making $715,983. However, things would turn around for their final 3 films of the year. Young Guns 2 was produced on a $10 million budget and made $44 million. The film also received an Academy Award nomination for Best Music Original Song for Blaze of Glory by John Bon Jovi. Morgan Creek would then revive the series of demonic possession films with The Exorcist 3. Like Nightbreed, their other horror movie that year, the film had extensive re-edits and was originally meant to be called Legion, based off of William Peter Blatty's 1983 novel. However, it was decided to make the film part of an existing franchise to make it more commercial. The strategy would pay off as the film made $39 million at the box office against an $11 million budget. Another horror movie for the studio then came out with Pacific Heights, starring Melanie Griffith, Matthew Modine, and Michael Keaton. The final box office gross would be $44 million against a $19 million budget. 1991 would be a big year for Morgan Creek. As they switched distributors to Warner Brothers Pictures, they would only release one film that year, but they made the most of it. The movie would be Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. The film would have an all-star cast consisting of Morgan Freeman, Christian Slater, Alan Rickman, Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, Sean Connery, and Kevin Costner as Robin Hood. The film would make $390 million at the box office and would be the second highest grossing film of the year behind Terminator 2, Judgment Day. The studio would enter 1992 with high expectations. However, of the 4 films that they released that year, only one made more than $20 million at the box office. That film would be The Last of the Mohicans. It would make $75.5 million in North America alone against a $40 million budget. Additionally, the film would win Morgan Creek their first Academy Award, doing so for Best Sound. In 1993, Morgan Creek would only release two films. The first would be The Crush. The movie would star Carrie Elways and Alicia Silverstone in her film debut. It would open to negative reviews, but would still manage to make $13 million, more than doubling its budget. Their other film was True Romance, which had all the makings of a major critical and box office success, as it was directed by Tony Scott, written by Quentin Tarantino, and starred Christian Slater, Patricia Arquette, Dennis Hopper, Val Kilmer, Gary Oldman, Brad Pitt, and Christopher Walken. Despite positive reviews, the film failed to recoup costs after grossing $12.3 million against a $13 million production cost. However, the film has since become a cult classic. 1994 would start off very well for the studio. They would first release Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. Despite negative reviews, the film was the highest-grossing film on its opening weekend and was number one for 3 more weekends. Ultimately, it made $107 million and helped make a movie star out of Jim Carrey after his time on In Living Color. Major League 2 was then released. However, it was not as successful as the original, making $30 million on a $25 million budget. The studio's remaining 4 films that year would all fail at the box office, with the highest grossing of the group being Trial by Jury, which made $6 million. Only one Morgan Creek film came out in 1995. It would be Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls. Like the first film, it got negative reviews, but also like the first film, it was immensely successful. It would make $212.4 million at the box office. 1996 would be a turning point for Morgan Creek, and not in a good way. Their highest grossing film that year was Diabolique, which made $17 million, but cost $45 million to produce. Wild America would be the studio's only film in 1997, and would only gross $7 million. 1998 would be a repeat of 1996. 1998 would be a repeat of 1996. Morgan Creek released 4 films that year. The Kurt Russell vehicle Soldier would be the most successful with $14 million. However, it cost $60 million to make. Major League: Back to the Minors would also be released that year, but would only gross $3 million on an $18 million budget. In 1999, the animated musical The King and I was released. However, it would only gross $11 million against a $25 million budget. Morgan Creek's other film that year was Chill Factor. Despite starring Academy Award winner Cuba Gooding Jr., the film only grossed $11 million of its $70 million budget. Starting in 2000, Morgan Creek would begin co-producing films with Franchise Pictures. The partnership got off to a good start with the release of The Whole Nine Yards, a comedy starring Bruce Willis and Matthew Perry. It would gross $106 million on a $41.3 million budget. However, all remaining films in the partnership lost money. The most notable of these were Battlefield Earth, which was based off of a 1982 novel by L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of the Scientology religion, and starred Scientologist John Travolta. By 2002, Morgan Creek significantly reduced their output, and films that made a profit became few and far between. A switch in distributors to Universal Studios in 2005 would not help the struggling studio. In the latter part of the decade, Morgan Creek got into a dispute with Japanese distributor Toho Tawa over money owed for the 2006 film The Good Shepherd. Toho Tawa advanced the distribution fee, but if the film lost money in Japan, Morgan Creek would be responsible for the shortfall. The film would lose money, but Morgan Creek would not pay. Japanese courts ordered Morgan Creek to pay Toho Tawa $5.2 million, but the money still didn't appear. The case soon was brought to American courts in 2011, where Morgan Creek was ordered to pay $5.7 million. As a result, their bank account was then frozen. Within a year, The studio declared Chapter 11 bankruptcy. In 2014, they sold the international distribution rights and the copyrights to the majority of their films to Revolution Studios, a company that was formed by Joe Roth. In 2015, they began to look for a buyer for the domestic rights to the library. However, they plan to keep the remake and television rights to the Ace Ventura, Major League, Young Guns, and Exorcist franchises. In 2016, Morgan Creek produced their first film in 5 years. The film would be All Eyes on Me, a biopic of rapper Tupac Shakur. Perhaps this film could save Morgan Creek and make them relevant again. Perhaps the film could bring a new line of success for Morgan Creek, or it could just start another line that was just like the original version of the studio, producing several flops and the occasional hit. We shall see if Morgan Creek can stay afloat.